Yo, what's up? Now, before I start this video off, I want to give honorable mentions to some of the greats that ever played the game because they didn't make this list. Alright? Walt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Bill Russell. The list goes on and on. Now, I've been watching basketball since the 80s, so I don't have that much knowledge in terms of the eye test of watching Bill Russell and Walt Chamberlain and guys like that. But I do know every generation of basketball carries on to the next. So without those players, there wouldn't be these players. It's just how it goes. Because everybody looks up to the next player before them. And, they try to increase or be better than that player that they looked up to. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All right? Now, with that being said, my number 10 on the greatest players of all time, all right? This guy is from Chicago, Southside Chicago, I believe, all right? He's a miniature player, but he's devastating. He's a lights-out scorer, all right? He goes after you on the defensive end. I'm talking about none other than legendary Issiah Lord Thomas, all right? Zeke, all right? That's his nickname. Bad Boys, all right? Now, this guy played several seasons in the 80s and a couple of these seasons in the 90s, but his career came to an end in the 90s due to injuries. But it didn't last as long as some of these players' careers last long today. But within that short span of time, he beat some of the greatest basketball players to ever pick up a ball, okay? All your favorite players that you have in your top 5, top 10, Isiah Thomas beat. These guys are like Magic, Bird, Kareem, Jordan. Isiah Thomas beat them all. And here's the funny thing about it. His teams, Bad Boy Pistons, they beat all those other teams more times than they beat them. Okay, that's saying a lot. Anytime you could beat Jordan, Magic, and Bird, three of the Renaissance players to ever play this game, guys that transcended basketball, like those three, you're on to something. All right? This guy knocked the Bulls out the playoffs, knocked Larry Bird out the playoffs, and Magic Johnson out the playoffs. This is in one season. He beat all those guys one by one in one season. He outplayed them all. All right? That alone puts you on the top 10. All right? He's a multiple-time All-Star. He's a Finals MVP. All right? Now, it does get held against him that he has only one Finals MVP. It means he wasn't the number one all the time. But he was the number one for one of those championships. They could have three-peated. But he got hurt in one of the games against the Lakers back in the 80s. All right? Now, if you remember the 80s, a lot of the basketball players were competing for three-peats. That seems to be like the gold standard. Whatever superstar could have got that three-peat, they would have had that claim of being the greatest basketball player of all time. And we already know out of that pack who got the three-peat. But it's not about that. In the 80s, Isiah Thomas hurt his leg in a very classic game against the Lakers. This guy was playing basketball on one leg. He refused to, go down without a fight. That's what you call a guy that, just gave it his all. A lot of players today, you don't see them doing stuff like that. They hurt their leg and they going out the game. They say, okay, on to the next one. I play better next year. But Isiah Thomas put his career on the line due to several injuries. That's how his career got cut short. But he put all of that on the line just to win championships or just a chance to get a championship. And that's what he did. All right? So put some respect on that guy's name. He's the greatest little man basketball player ever. Okay, period. No, Allen Iverson, you don't got no rings. You don't deserve to be on this list. This is for champions. You have to earn it. Okay? You haven't beaten nobody in your prime. You haven't won or taken your team to the next level. You went to the finals, but you still lost. Issiah Thomas beat some of the best players to ever play basketball. All right? And he did it on a bad boys team that was defensive minded. This wasn't no stacked team with 3 or several all-stars on it, okay? They had two true Hall of Famers on that team. The first ever Hall of Fame backcourt. Okay? Issiah Thomas and Joe Dumars are the only 2 players in NBA history, point guard and shooting guard, that is in the Hall of Fame. Now, Steph Curry and Clay is going to get on there, but they'd be number 2. But as of right now, there's only 2 guys that's on that list. You got the third player in Dennis Rodman, who was a defensive guru, all right? But keep in mind, he was a defensive guru because he got in your head. He wasn't an offensive threat, okay? I told you at the end of the day, it's all about defense to offense. You can't have one without the other. If you're all defense but you can't score, you're not going to win. If you're all scoring with no defense, you're not going to win. You got to have both, okay? Somebody going to have to fight through those dogs. This is the 80s, 90s. When you was undersized, it didn't benefit a perimeter player, okay? So you had to earn your way and fight your way through guys that were bigger than you. I mean, Issiah Thomas had several seasons where he averaged over 22 points a game, all right? Started out in his rookie season averaging 17 points a game. I know all of this because I watched this era, all right? He shot over 46% from the field multiple years. That's more than all these other little guards that you're talking about. More than the Iversons and all these ringless bums that didn't win, all right? This guy won. And he averaged 20 plus points a game. He guarded the best player on the opposite team. He went after Mike. He went after Bird. He went after Magic. Okay? He beat the guy that he says is the greatest basketball player of all time in Kareem. But he beat him too. So, keep that in mind. All right? He had his sick handles. This is a guy that Chuck Daly and Bill Laimbeer said, if he was a couple inches taller, he'd be the greatest basketball player of all time. This guy gave everybody problems. He gave Michael Jordan issues. He was quick. He had handles. He could shoot the mid-range. And once he get going, he gets going. You know? And keep in mind, the game wasn't based on perimeter basketball players. He wasn't shooting threes because you can't touch him like a lot of players are shooting today. All right? So keep in mind, the rules weren't catered to perimeter players back then. It was catered to bigs. All right? So, I'm here to represent for Issiah Lord Thomas III. Put some respect on that man's name. Top 10 greatest basketball player of all time for modern NBA history. All right, he inspired a lot of these little basketball players that you see, you know, all the little guys, you know, and he deserves a spot in that top 10. One of the most underrated basketball players of all time. All right, this guy's a 12-time All-Star. Let's see what else. What else do I remember from Issiah Thomas? I believe his career high is in the 60s. Remember, he had a 60-point game. I do believe it probably was against the Knicks. I mean, this is a long time ago, so I have to go back and look at that. But I do remember him scoring. I think 60 was his career high, I believe. But this guy was a beast, man. He brought it to you every night, you know. And all they were about was winning. The league tried to disgrace these guys and sweep them under the rug because they weren't, quote unquote, America's favorite team. Now these guys was roughhouse guys. You know what I mean? They put a body on you, you know. And if you was driving to that paint, you had to, you know, you may take an elbow, you know. A lot of plays these days, you be like, I don't want to take that. No, I'm good, you know. But guys like Jordan, he had to fight through that type of stuff, you know. And Issiah Thomas remained a great basketball player to his very end. Okay, injuries pretty much ended his career in '91. He finally got Jordan finally got his revenge and beat Issiah Thomas, you know. But Issiah Thomas was almost pretty much out of his prime then. But you can't take credit away from the Bulls because the Pistons won the championship the very year before. They were the defending champs. So if you knock off the defending champs, you get full credit for that, and a sweep at that. All right. So put some respect on his name and remember him. Don't ever forget it. Isiah Thomas, top 10 greatest basketball player of all time. Peace.